welcome, welcome. We are into day 3 of our Epic Wellness Week, and we've got a special guest, Julia, here. We're gonna pick her brain a little bit about meal planning. She is a coach for a functional medicine clinic actually in Michigan, is it?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Oh, so
Yeah.
close. And yeah, so she has got, some insight and she's also an Epic client. So we're just going to pick her brain a little bit about, how she kind of worked to develop, that meal planning because there is kind of a learning curve isn't the right word, but it definitely takes some practice to kind of get it down. So we're excited
Mhm.
to have you and
There's an
thanks for
art.
joining
I
us.
would say there's an art
Right.
to it, and it's an
Yeah.
art that I know I have yet to master. So I can't wait to hear Julia's
Oh,
tips and tricks. For sure.
Well, it's exciting. And yeah, so really today, yeah, Julia, I think initially here, I'd love to just hear, in your first kind of stages of kind of working to start, meal planning or even just adjusting, the way that you shop and kind of plan for, your meals, whether it's throughout the week or I know some people, do it on the fly where they've got tons of stuff in their house and they kind of just pick out what works for them. So I'd love to hear, yeah, as you kind of started making some changes, just kind of tell me more about your experience with that, if you will.
yeah. I mean, I definitely don't have it mastered either, but I think I am a meal planner for those who hate meal planning. So I do as basic as I possibly can with making it work. But I feel like it was just figuring out like the veggies that I actually eat and liked. Like I think at the beginning of my journey with you guys, I would just go to the grocery store and get like tons of vegetables, and then a lot of them would go bad because I just didn't like them or they'd be too hard to prepare or something like that. So
Yeah.
I think it's just figuring out partly what you're going to actually eat, which sometimes just does come by trial and error. But I kind of discovered for myself, like every time I go to the grocery store, I get carrots, mushrooms, onions, and cauliflower. And those seem like the ones that I always get something made out of them. I don't know if they just seem like they go with lots of different meals or something. But
Mhm.
the big thing that really helped me was when I get home, cutting up my veggies. That's really the only preparation I do in advance that helps me immensely just because I hate cutting them up. So if I want to make a meal on the fly, then they're already cut up and that part's done and I can just go from there. So that's kind of been one of the big things that's helped me, but I guess there's other
Yeah.
little things too, but
No, yeah, that's a huge one. And I think that, along with that, it definitely took me some practice to kind of get into that habit, but it really does just make the whole week, easier for yourselves, whether you're, just washing your berries or,
Mhm.
just washing and cutting up whatever vegetables, just so, when you do get into the busy part or the middle of the week, whenever you already know you've got those options there for you. And I think that really helps too to kind of limit the temptation of other things because oh, I've already got, these clean, fresh vegetables that I
Right.
can enjoy. So no, I think it's kind of it's a little tip, but it makes a big difference. So
Yeah,
yeah. No,
for
I
sure.
love that. And Dr. B, you mentioned you're, yeah, not as much of a novice with the meal planning game. What is your kind of shopping
Yeah.
adventure? We'll call it that. What does that
Right.
look like for you
I'll tell
guys?
you what, we're getting better. I'm going to say this. And, we're very conscious about rotating. I'm playing with my chair here, by the way. I can't decide if I want to stand or sit. I'm just going to stand because I'm a stander. Um, the reality is for a while, were eating so much broccoli. I mean, I think it was like broccoli every meal. And I'm only partly being facetious there. We've expanded now to a lot of other different vegetables where I would say, regularly we get Brussels sprouts, broccoli, mushrooms, though, lots of different mushrooms. We've really started experimenting with all sorts of mushrooms that I would not even begin to know anything about other before I started eating them. Cauliflower, arugulas, and other greens. We started getting into like these baby green sprouts and really trying those out. And carrots are somewhat of a staple. I would say we have those about once a week. But what's not trying to promote these guys, but certainly I will promote these guys, and I know that you guys have seen me promote them.
Yeah.
What's really changed my prep across the board is Misfits Market.
Yeah.
I love Misfits. I know they're not available in all 50 states. So I know that whenever I talk about Misfits, we always have people from Texas because we have a lot of patients in Texas that just get upset because they don't have Misfits Market available down there. But to just chat about it, it's a buying club. You can sign up for, once a week, once every other week. I think that's the choices. And you can get a $20 box or a $35 box. We get the $35 box because we have a family of four. Sometimes we have friends over, but I will tell you our $35 box of food, and I've heard this from lots of people that do the $35 box, is a lot of food. It's a fair chunk of food. And what's cool about it is they have you pick your foods in categories.
Mhm.
So, you choose, at least on our $35 box, we get six of these, and then usually two of these. So we end up with, sweet potatoes, we end up with greens, and all of this is organic. Again, I'm not trying to over promote it, but,
But it's a great deal. I
but
think
it's a
that's the
great
cheapest
deal.
you're gonna get
It
a
is.
box of those anywhere.
It
So
is. It's all organic. It saves us. I don't even know how much money I mean, they tell me how much money we're saving, but it seems like a whole lot more than that.
Mhm.
Probably because our grocery visits, then like our grocery store visits,
Mm.
we're not, can't explain this, but we already have so much food at home that really what we're not getting is the protein. Misfits only does produce. So, we're going there and really targetedly buying protein. And we're also, and this has really helped me with food prep, because I'm picking out my vegetables almost a week in advance. You pick them out on Saturday, and here where we live, they get delivered on Friday, the following Friday. And so, I know starting on Friday, I'm going to have all these foods. And so when I go to the grocery store, we place a grocery order now on Thursday evenings.
Mhm.
And they could deliver it, but we go there because we, like everybody else in the world, we. One or two things. So we pick up our grocery order, grab a couple of things, and then come out. And our grocery bill has gone really down, from where I used to say, you guys have heard me say this before, where, other than our mortgage, our grocery bill was our second biggest expense. I can't say that anymore. It's come down that much that I don't know what our second visit. It still may be our grocery bill because we don't have a lot of expenses outside of our mortgage,
Mm.
student loans. So maybe that's our second biggest expense
Yeah,
now.
I know that one.
But other than that, man, our grocery bill has come down by, I don't even know how much, hundreds of dollars a month, just by using Misfits
Wow.
Market. Again, not trying to promote them too much, but I'll make
Incredible.
sure that we drop a code, for our Epic community
Mhm.
here so that they can save. I think right now they're offering 25% off your first order. And then it's an average savings of like 40, 50% off all future orders.
Crazy.
I
And
know it's
just for
great.
anyone that doesn't know or isn't as familiar with Misfit Market, basically, the vegetables or produce that is not quite like pretty enough to go to a regular grocery store, that's what you're getting.
Right,
So there's nothing wrong with it. It just might be like
right,
misshapen or
right,
deformed, but it's
right.
the same food.
Example,
You get all that good stuff. Go ahead.
example here. So sweet potato, right? Instead of the sweet potatoes being shaped like a sweet potato, the ones we get are kind of long and skinny, right? And I mean, there's literally nothing wrong with them at all. They just aren't fat and squat like
Right.
a sweet potato. They're just long and skinny. And that's the
Crazy.
misfit, it doesn't fit into the mold, so to speak.
Wow.
Um,
Yep.
if you ask me how the cilantro is different, or the arugula, the spinach, it comes in the
Yeah.
exact same container. And I mean the exact same plastic container with the opening that you buy down at the local grocer in the health market or at Whole Foods. So,
Man. Amazing. Yeah,
and
it just blows my mind how much you get for, yeah, that 35 bucks. And I love too that you
yeah,
can kind of, you know, order it ahead of time. Like you said, Dr. B, I think that would help a lot with, again, just giving you an idea of
yeah.
what you have and what you should
Radishes.
make throughout the
I mean, I
week.
could go on and on. Radishes, beets, greens that you've never heard of before. I mean, what did we get the other day? Celery seed root. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I've never made celery seed root before, but it's got a ton of nutrients in it,
Hmm.
and it was really easy to cook, and it kind of has a nutty flavor when you roast it. I mean, it's not
Mm.
anything that I would have ever thought to get, but because it was there, we were like, yeah, let's try it and see if we like it or not. Just fun stuff like that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
A nutty flavor. That reminds me of nutritional yeast, which they claim it has a nutty, creamy, cheesy taste to it, which I'm like, such an odd combination. But I feel like that would be extra good on that celery seed
Yeah.
root. But
Yeah.
this is a really random question, but I love to ask this. It's just kind of funny. So I want to hear what your one or your top few favorite vegetables and how you prepare them. So whoever's inspired, and even Melissa, Robin that are in here live, and I'm keeping an eye on the chat on Facebook too. So yeah, I'm just purely out of curiosity, what's your favorite veggie and how do you like to prepare it?
My favorite is kale, I feel like, and I actually like to saute it with like a little bit of ghee or something, just so it like takes
Oh
the
yeah.
crunch down just a little bit, and then sprinkle it with salt or even a salad dressing or something like that. I love that. But that was my security question at the bank was, "What's your favorite vegetable?" And I was like, "Oh man, I don't know if I
Kale.
remember. I have so many, but I would say kale is probably my favorite, and I make it
That's
probably the
so
most
good.
often."
I love that that's your security question. Also, Melissa commented, also sauteed in ghee, onion and sweet potato. That would be so good. Mm.
I
What
probably
Absolutely.
about you,
shouldn't have
Dr.
just
B?
I
What?
probably shouldn't have just told you all my security question at the bank.
Right.
I
Right.
forgot.
Kale.
We don't know what
Don't promote
bag. It's
me.
all right. We can
Yeah.
edit that part out. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
You know what? I cook many of the same like many vegetables in the same way, which
Yeah.
is basically um, usually it's in I have an iron, skillet. I'll
Yep.
put the vegetables in there, whether it's Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower. I mean, whatever it happens, kale sometimes, right? I'll usually put some kind of oil on it. It may be ghee, it might be avocado oil, but something that can be heated up, safely. And then I'll put this is the same spices every time: sea salt, pepper, and garlic powder. Those three spices, like all, and I use
Yep.
more garlic powder than probably most people would say is reasonable. But I'm telling you, our family really rarely gets sick, and I think part of that's because of all that allium from the
Yeah.
garlic.
I love it. And Robin mentioned she likes oven roasted cauliflower, even in the
Yep.
cast iron with avocado oil and sea salt. And I am the same. I think my favorite vegetable by far is roasted cauliflower. And even like any roasted vegetables, that's also a tip we can share, a nice little
Yeah.
point.
Okay.
So I mean, we've had a lot of different names for them, but if you look up sheet pan dinners, there are
Mm,
so many sheet pan dinners, and I just love them so much. And you can either do it on a sheet pan or you can even make it into like a skillet meal. But basically, get yourself a protein, get yourself a healthy fat, get yourself some different vegetables, throw them either onto that sheet pan, into that skillet. You might have to cook the meat, a little bit longer depending on what you've got and how big it is, but I've found that is just so convenient.
Absolutely.
And then I love making extra roasted vegetables so I can, you know, have them for the next few days. Or I've even made sort of like a vegetable soup out of like the leftover roasted vegetables. There's so much that you
That's
can
a great
do.
idea.
And it blows my mind, honestly, that not everyone roasts their vegetables all the time. I just think it's so easy. And just also, I'm with you, Dr. B, on the garlic. I probably use more garlic than is generally accepted. But I really like to Italian seasoning. They have so many different Italian seasoning blends. But if you're not sure, what to do, especially when I was like just getting into trying to get creative with seasonings, I found that was one of the easiest ways to kind of jazz up my veggies a little bit. Just throw some, garlic, get some salt, that Italian seasoning, and it's just so easy and so delicious. I
One
love it.
thing, one thing is, I have a vitamin D receptor polymorphism, a genetic problem with vitamin D, right? So I eat foods that are rich in vitamin D, and one of the foods richest in vitamin D, of course, is mushrooms, just across the board. And you get it gets boring, and it's probably not healthy to eat the same mushrooms over and over and over again. So we go from I don't know how to say the words, but maitake, shiitake, different types of what are they, oyster mushrooms,
Mhm.
and then certainly some of the more general, like white button and whatnot. But I think we have 4 or 5 mushrooms that we float around through the week, and we probably have mushrooms on more days of the week than on less days of the week, for sure.
Exciting. I need to get into the mushrooms a little bit. I've kind of neglected them a little bit, but hearing that, yeah, there are so many options
Cook
and
them
they
in
seem
ghee, I'm
pretty
telling you.
versatile. Oh, and we just got a comment on Facebook from Gina. She mentioned one of her favorites is a leek and mushroom stir fry with salt and
mm,
Sounds
spices.
good.
That does
yum.
sound really good.
That sounds super good.
But I wanted to take some time here and I'm going to share my screen. So I'll give you a little backstory before I share it. So some time ago, I created this week-long meal plan, and it has more than a week's full of or more than a week's worth of recipes. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of open it and share it. There's a couple like prep ideas for the week ahead, and we can just kind of chat through those a little bit, and then chat through, maybe some other tips and tricks if anyone has any that they would like to share. So let's do it. So I just opened up here the week ahead. So I know for some people it can be overwhelming to like plan the full weeks, the full week out. So even if you have some ideas of things you can include, throughout the week, but I know some people too that they just like to or they are able to go to the grocery store more often. So whether you plan, a few days ahead or again, just ensuring that your fridge is stocked like Julia said with things that you'll enjoy and eat throughout the week. And again, just like you said too, it does take some kind of trial and error to figure out, what you really enjoy. Um, but these are just some simple tips, and Julia mentioned this bad boy. So wash and store, cut your berries, greens, and other vegetables. And I know a lot of people know this, but just in case you don't, with your fresh greens, if you find that they aren't lasting as long as you think they should, you can put a paper towel in with your greens, and that will help soak up the moisture, and that'll keep them. Um, Good for longer. So
I
just a
did
little
not know
quick tip
that. Thank
there.
you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, my mom's been doing that for years and it really does help because they just, for whatever reason, get kind of that moisture and it just kind of ruins the whole thing. So yeah, put a couple paper towels in there and it'll last you a bit longer. A few other just kind of quick tips. Again, these are all optional, just kind of ideas or suggestions that could be helpful again to make the week ahead easier for yourself. So I have, cooking some chicken or turkey breasts. You can store these in the fridge, have them with snacks, include them on a salad. I know it's kind of interesting to think, but I honestly fairly often have leftover chicken for breakfast, even just like cold chicken. So, yeah, you can get a little creative there if you need.
I
And
always,
with
I always say that
the
your eating habits have changed when you start craving things like chicken breast or turkey breast,
right, isn't that
instead of the
interesting?
sugary snacks.
Right. And along with that too, I know a lot of people like enjoy a green smoothie in the morning, which yeah, it's so good. You're just filling yourself right away with some nice vegetables. Of course, I know we talked about this Monday. We've got that acid in there, cilantro and parsley for our chelators, helping with heavy metal detox. So that can be a great thing too. And I know so along with like making batches of things, whether you're making soup that you can freeze for leftovers, you can also do this with your smoothies too. So if you are tired of just making one smoothie at a time and you don't want to have to clean your blender so many times in a week, you can make multiple days, or multiple servings at a time, and either store them in your fridge for probably no more than a day or two, but if you freeze them, they'll last a lot longer in there too. So that's a fun little tidbit.
Hmm.
And yeah, so these are just more optional things just regarding, the meal plan that I made. I mentioned too, like roasting batched vegetables. Again, leftovers are one of my favorite things, and they just sometimes make it so convenient. So on top of this, Julia, I'm curious, was there anything else, or even Dr. B, anything else that comes to mind, just like maybe a staple or kind of a tip or trick you've learned along the way that helps you out throughout the week?
Yeah, I think the crock pot has been a huge part for me. Just they're so easy, even instant pot, but I'm kind of scared of those. But you can just throw stuff in a crock pot and make a big batch and then have it in your freezer. Or I like to pre-portion it and then freeze it so that it's
That's
like
awesome.
a little freezer meal you can just pop out and heat up. And
Easy
the crock pot
peasy.
has been a huge helpful thing for me
Absolutely.
because you can throw tons of stuff in and
Right.
it's really good.
So good.
I, I want to double down on that, but I'm going to say instant pot. I don't know how to use a crock pot, which is kind of funny. When we bought our house that we're in, it was definitely a fixer upper, and for a hot minute that went on a little bit longer than anyone would have expected, we did not have a stove or an oven. We literally lived cooking with an Instant Pot and a George Foreman grill, and then we had like a hot water kettle, and that's what we had. And it was funny after, it went, like I said, it went on a little bit longer than one would expect it to, just because we were just having issues picking out what we wanted and finding a good deal. And we kind of got used to cooking in an Instant Pot and cooking on the George Foreman grill. And I think it wasn't George Foreman grill, but it was something like that, one of those like
Yeah.
tabletop grills, and the hot water kettle. And literally we got so used to it that we forgot what it's like to have a stove and an oven. Of course, now we have, all the luxuries of a modern kitchen, including things like a stove and an oven. But the funny thing is we use that Instant Pot all of the time. It's like Julia said, it's just super simple to, uh, throw
Convenient.
lots of pieces in there. And I mean, man, I have fallen in love with a super simple, I think Nat and I chatted about this back in October, but a chicken soup, a very, healthy detox chicken soup that,
We've got a YouTube video on that in case
yeah,
anyone is curious.
yeah,
Dr. B did a tutorial, yeah.
yeah.
But I love it. Yeah, the Instapot. So I've used like the crock pot and the Instapot, but I love the Instapot. I think is so versatile, and the crock pot's awesome if you can throw it in there at the beginning of the day, let it cook throughout the day, and you don't have to worry about it at all. And with the Instapot, I think it blows my mind that you can cook, frozen to fresh. I've done
Right.
salmon in there, I've done chicken in there. It was interesting. The first thing I ever made in an Instapot was mashed a cauliflower mash, and it was so easy. It literally took longer for my Instapot to heat up than it did
Right.
for it to cook my cauliflower. It only had to be there in there for 1 minute. Took it out, drained the water, mashed it up, added my, seasonings and whatnot. And if I didn't know that it was cauliflower mash, I would not have known. It just blows my mind. But there's so many cool kitchen tools that, can be helpful, whether it's the crock pot or the Instapot, or I know, um, even things like the immersion blender, or yeah, do you guys have any other, kitchen tools that you swear by?
I was just going to mention the immersion blender. I think that
Mhm.
combined with the Instant Pot, I mean,
Right.
we made some uh, mash the other night. I was thinking of the word there. We were made some mash the other night, and that immersion blender is just so easy. It's also, though, I just want to say, as far as I know, the most dangerous tool in the kitchen, because there's an exposed blade on the bottom. So you don't want to get your hand down in there. You got to do that one-handed, right? For sure.
Right. I think we talked about that last time
I know,
too,
it's
in our
scary.
last detox. So the thing with the immersion blender is, if you haven't seen one, it's basically like a handheld blender, and on the bottom there's like a little, uh, you know, cone, not cone. I don't know the
A
word I'm looking
protector.
for. Yeah, thank you. And then there's a blade inside. So basically, you stick it in whatever cup or pot, and then there's generally a lock on it. So you have to unlock it and then press it on. So there are some safety features
Ours has no
within
lock
that,
on it.
but
So ours
okay.
ours has two buttons, and one is low and one is high, and that's it. When that thing is on and live, I mean, it's like just a button away from spinning. So I mean, we don't have the fancy one with the lock on it.
Right. Yeah, I guess you got to be extra careful. But otherwise, they do have, like ninjas, or like Vitamix blenders. Someone just added in the
Yeah.
comments. If you don't want an immersion blender, you can still use, your regular blender. Or we've even got, we use our potato masher for quite a lot of things too, just to, mash it up in there, easy peasy. But
I was going to ask
yeah,
Julia, what's your favorite besides the crock pot? What's your favorite kitchen utensil?
Man, I'm kind of old fashioned. I don't know if I have probably just actually my Vitamix I do use a lot. I have an immersion blender, but I'm kind of a wimp. I'm scared of it. So I pretty much just
I'm not
throw
scared.
everything in my Vitamix. Do cauliflower mash in there and stuff like that. So I feel like a good blender is an investment because it can pretty much do anything.
we
oh
have we have those
yeah,
little we have just about every kitchen gadget that you can imagine, because food is such, just for justification, this is the way I justify it, food is such an important part of our lives that I want it to be easy,
Mhm.
and I like to have gadgets that make it easy. So we have those, I think they're called magic, I call it a magic bullet, but I don't think that's, maybe that is what it's called, but
I
it's
think
the,
that's what it is. Yeah.
yeah, the tiny little,
Hmm.
it's a cup, it's like a cup size. You
Yep.
screw the blade on, turn it upside down, put it into a thing, lock it in, it spins around it, whatever, and then and then it's done.
Mhm.
Man, we make smoothies. That's how we make our smoothies for the most part. Once in a while, Rachel will, like you were saying, make a bunch of smoothies all at once. For that day, usually put a couple in the fridge for the next day, and then we'll freeze in those little cups, the rest of them.
Mhm.
And we
Mhm.
use our Ninja for that quite a bit, in our Vitamix, depending on which one is pulled out to use. But
Easy
those are
peasy.
all great
Yeah.
utensils.
There's
Mhm.
definitely a there's a lot of, tools and stuff out there. And one thing that's gained, traction this past year are air fryers. Do any of you have an air fryer?
I don't, but I'm fascinated by them.
I
I
am
had
too. You did
I
have
did,
one?
I did have one. I don't have it anymore. I just don't like gadgets. I don't like having
Mm,
stuff on
That's
my
funny.
counter, so I
yeah.
got rid of it. But it was cool while I had it. I used it every once in a while.
Uh-huh.
Melissa says that she has one too. Nat, did you
I've
say that you
heard.
have one?
No, I want one though. I should have asked for one for Christmas.
Yeah,
I think it's just, I don't know, I've just heard a lot about the convenience factor. I mean, it's kind of similar to an an Instapot in the way that, it can cook foods just so quickly, and such a variety of different, things that you can put in there. And it just, yeah, I'm very curious about it. And let's see. What? Robin said she just got the latest Instapot that
yep.
is also an air
That's
fryer.
what I was just gonna say. I
Oh
was looking
wow.
that up. But yeah,
That's
exactly.
a I didn't even know that was a thing. Oh my goodness gracious. That's that's so cool. And yeah, so Robin, have you used the air frying feature of it? And Melissa, tell us, I'm curious, what are some of your favorite things to cook in there? I have endless curiosity about that. I want to try it out. I've seen it everywhere on the internet. But yeah, I can't wait to hear
He
more
hasn't
about
used
your
it. We
guys's.
we want to get your favorite, Robin. When you use it, we want to get your favorite recipe, and then that will be my impetus to go get one. I just looked
Right.
them up too, by the way. They're not ridiculously expensive, especially for the amount. If you're going to use it, I mean,
Mhm.
I always say what within reason, guys. I mean, none of us are independently wealthy, I don't think, but
Not
within
yet.
reason. I mean, if you're going to use it, it's probably worth every dollar. If it's going to help you eat healthy foods, in a way that
Right.
your family's going to enjoy it. Um,
Mhm.
I, I don't know how much those are, but it looks like, just quickly looking online, anywhere from like 100-ish to 180-ish, and I think it probably depends on the features that you get. And I
Right.
think for an appliance, I mean, for as much as we use our Instant Pot, I mean,
Right.
I can't believe it
180
still
seven.
works. I mean, it gets so much use. It's crazy.
And especially if you had, the Instapot and air fryer in one, I feel like that would definitely, pay for itself in the long run. That's a
Because what I'll
great
do
deal.
with my Instant Pot is I'll saute some of the vegetables, like if I'm
Hmm.
gonna do like
Yeah.
some type of, I don't know, it's not really a stir fry, but you guys get the idea,
Hmm.
right? But I'll cook some of those vegetables in like a saute mode, and then I'll add, some of the whatever the meat is. Maybe it's I've been using chicken thighs lately over chicken breast, full
Mm.
disclosure. And I think that they're a little juicier. I will be the first to admit that I tend to overcook meat. My team knows this, Nat knows this. I am a total germaphobe, and so I tend to overcook things to make sure everything's dead. And yet try to preserve the nutrients. So it's a real fine line.
It is.
I cook by color a lot, as opposed to with vegetables. And then with the meat, I actually have another one of my favorite gadgets. I have a digital thermometer so
Yeah.
that I can make sure that the meat got to 165 degrees,
Yeah.
so I can make sure that all those little
Right.
nasty beasties are dead. And
The-
but I love that feature of the saute, where I can just start with vegetables, start with my
mhm.
spices, throw in the meat, maybe throw in some of the other like greens at the end to kind of finish it off so that they're
Right.
not overcooked, and then that's the meal, and it's super super simple.
So good. Oh, so easy. And I think that, yeah, there's a lot of ways that we can make, you know, prepping or cooking easier, whether it's with these tools or, just doing
Spices.
little things. Yeah, doing some things that, again, just save you some time in the middle of the week. So when you are ready to prepare something, you don't have to spend a lot of extra time, doing all those little things. And Melissa had mentioned, she made chicken and broccoli in the air fryer. It turned out pretty good. I'm just
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
take a
have
note
to
of
get
that.
myself one of those because I just am too curious.
I'll get one and have dueling instant pots. You know, here's what's really
Yes.
funny. My folks have an instant pot that's it's never been used. It's pristine and it's been sitting on their counter since the day they got it. And every time I visit them in their house, I'm like, boy, do you guys use that? We use ours a lot. I can see having two. I could see how having two instant pots could be very just.
Just
And they're
planting that seed.
I know. And then my mom always answers with, we're going to have to use that. We're going to have to figure out how to use that. And I'm like, take the hit, mom.
One of these days, right? That's all right. Until then, I think you'll be okay with your
I
one
think we'll
Instapot
be,
and then,
we're going to be fine with our, I know these are definitely first world problems that I only have one instant
right?
pot,
I know. Oh man,
Not
and it's not even an air fryer.
even an air
Ah.
fryer.
But it amazes me, like, I kind of I don't know, I forgot with the Instapot, I'm very used to kind of, closing it up and just having it do all the
Right.
things, but I forget there is, that sauté feature where you
Yeah.
can use it just like you would use a skillet on a stove. I
Yeah.
think that's yeah, super easy.
What's funny is mine says on and then it turns to hot when it's ready to go. But I
Mhm.
thought the hot meant that it was overheating. So every time when I was first using the saute feature, I push it, it would say on, it would start cooking, and then it would say hot. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's overheating. So I would turn it off, let it cool down again. And then I push saute again, and it would turn on and say hot. And this is the way I cooked food on the instant pot for like I said, a little bit longer than anybody would expect.
Oh no. Oh no.
You're like, this thing is worthless.
Right.
Like, why did I do what am I doing wrong?
Right. Right.
Oh my goodness. Well, you live and you learn, and now you know, and now the people watching this won't make that same mistake. So,
Hey, you know what? I'm the first to admit I'm not a chef. I don't have necessarily the best kitchen skills, but I like cooking. I have a lot of fun
right.
doing it. And it's something that we have started to do as a team, as a family. For a little while, it was usually just me trying to put
Yeah.
something together, but now it's kind of a fun family time when
Mhm.
it like even the prep, whether it's just prepping for the week, picking out our vegetables becomes a
Yeah.
family activity. We get to select six out of like 14 different vegetables.
Mhm.
So which six do we want? And it's kind of and then that helps us plan
I
plan the
love
meals
that.
together. We get together and cook together in the evening. Sometimes that cooking together is Rachel finishing up her dissertation, which I swear will be done soon. She's set to graduate and be Dr. Rachel by the end of February.
Yes.
So we're AB, we just call it ABD right now, all but dissertation. And so
Oh,
she's very, very,
close.
very close. And so she'll study and work on her dissertation, and I'll help throw out some words here and there that she needs
Mhm.
she needs an opinion on, and I'll cook. But that's family time for us now,
I
which
love
is
it.
which is pretty awesome. Yeah.
And that's what I think makes it, extra fun is I've heard from, a couple different clients that have tried out Misfit Market and they have, kids that are very, they're getting more curious about, trying different vegetables, but they were so excited to be able to help, pick out the vegetables they were going to get within that, Misfit Market bundle. And I think that, that's just helping the whole family out because then the kids are excited about this, vegetable that they chose, and you know, the parents don't have to, try to convince them that this is going to be good and
Right.
tasty. But
Right.
yeah, it just adds
You
more
picked it out,
excitement.
Jimmy. That's what I would say.
Right?
Picked it out, Jimmy. We're gonna eat it. I don't want to eat
It's
it.
gonna be good. We put extra garlic on it for you. Just trust me.
I've been throwing whole cloves of garlic, like I mean actual like just cloves of garlic in the food that I'm making, not even chopping it up or anything. And it cooks it, whether you're roasting it, of course, roasted garlic is amazing. If you haven't tried that, please, everybody that's not allergic to garlic should eat some roasted garlic tonight if they can. But in that chicken soup that I was talking about,
Mhm.
just cooking whole cloves of garlic, even in some of the, again, I don't want to call it stir fry, but those stir fries, it's a lot of fun to just put in whole cloves of garlic, and it's definitely got a unique flavor to it when you eat that clove.
Yeah. I'll have to. I saw a video of someone who had made, um, I don't know exactly. I think it is roasted garlic cloves, but basically they did something to them and then they soaked for a while and then they showed it, I think it was on like a cracker or some type of bread, which isn't the best, but literally they just took a fork
Yeah,
and spread the
yeah.
garlic. Oh my gosh, yeah, that sounds really good. And it also reminded me of a recipe that I've got on this meal plan, which also just a heads up to anyone, I'll be posting like our little post-it note question for our detox raffle right after this. And if you comment back on that, answering the question, I'll send you our week-long meal plan, which
What
I'm
is what is the question today?
the question for today is, oh, it's just a recipe share
That's what I
or like a
that's
tip,
what I thought.
like a meal planning tip, either way. So if you have, a tip or trick that you think would be helpful to share, or again, if you just have a recipe that, you stand by and enjoy a lot, then yeah, you're kind of welcome to share.
On on plan recipe though, right?
Yes,
Yes, on
on
plan.
plan. So we're looking for epic 5 recipes and in general, just kind of whether it's shopping, prepping, planning, cooking, if you have any tips within that, yeah, you're welcome to
And
share.
we're
So
slowly compiling these recipes, into I don't know if it's called a recipe book or not, but kind of
yeah.
what you're showing us right now, right? So this has
Mhm.
grown over time with a lot of input from a lot of our peeps.
Yes, indeed. And
Oh,
I'm just
there
talking
was
to
that
share.
1 week meal plan. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to. Oh, I know why it didn't come up. I'm
And
sorry.
this is this the handout that folks get if they post?
Yep. So
Okay.
there are more than a week's worth of recipes. There it is. There are more than a week's worth of recipes in this document. And also I'll point it out at the end, but at the very bottom there's a sample 1 week meal plan and then there's also a blank week. So you can either, edit the one that I created just as a template, or you can take that empty week and do what you're inspired with it. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to, briefly chat about this 2-for-1 soup recipe because it was really tasty and I just think it's really convenient. So basically with this, you make one soup base. So you're including all of these things here. So you've got chicken stock, celery, onions, carrots, chicken, whatever spices your heart desires. We used these spices in there. And that's your base. So we prepare that base, we get our vegetables sautéed, prepare our chicken, and then put it all together, and we can either turn it into a
Um,
chicken zoodle soup or a Thai soup with faux fried rice, which if you like rice and you haven't tried cauliflower rice, I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite things. And I feel like in terms of, substitutions, that's one of the closest, substitutions in terms of like
wow.
mouth taste and flavor, depending on how you season it. But I swear by cauliflower rice. I love it so much.
And I
Um,
like I like that to make it like a soup number three.
mhm.
I think if there was a small substitution there from the coconut milk being optional, but taking that ginger away and then throwing in something like cumin, um,
Ah,
almost give it a southwestern flavor as well.
so
So I
good.
mean, spices can listen. It's all about the spices, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It really is. And there are so many spices out there. And I think one thing Dan mentioned, with spices, if you're looking to try some new ones, you can put a bunch of, put some vegetables on a sheet pan and literally just section it out. So maybe put one seasoning on one strip, try another
Oh
seasoning on
yeah,
this one, and then you can have a little, plate of variety and you can
it's a great idea.
decide your favorites. Yeah, so that's
That
awesome.
Dan,
And one final thing, what'd you say?
that Dan, he's always coming up
I
with good
know.
ideas.
I love Dan. He's really the best. He's
Like he's
awesome.
a health coach or something.
I know. He's just so smart. Who would have thunk? But there's one last thing I want to mention about this 2-for-1 soup, and one of the reasons I think it's so cool. So after you make the base, you can either freeze it like as the base, or you can keep going and add the other stuff, and you can even freeze those as well. But I think that's super cool because you could, take half of it and make your chicken zoodle soup and save the rest of it for, later in the week, and you can either have, your plain base, or you can turn it into something completely different if you want to later, just to have, some different flavors in
Yeah.
within your week. So I love it.
I love it
And
too.
I feel bad, Julia. We've been doing most of the talking,
No, it's great.
but I'm curious here. So I guess I have kind of a, you know, yeah, we'll just go with it. So, what's been like the biggest lesson you've learned, or what would be kind of the biggest piece of advice you would give to someone, whether they're, just starting their, getting into kind of meal planning or even just being more mindful of meals in general? If you have, yeah, a piece of advice, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, I think any new thing, any life change or new habit you're trying to create is super overwhelming at first. So I think it's probably kind of normal to feel a little bit overwhelmed at the beginning, but it is amazing how quickly you get into a habit of it, especially as you start feeling better moving forward. And how once you get to a place where you feel better, you don't ever want to go back. And that's
Absolutely.
an amazing gift that we're given. I feel like when that happens. And I think a big thing that helped me was like my husband is not healthy. He feels great. He can eat whatever he wants.
Hmm.
He was super supportive, which I'm thankful for. But I figured out that I don't have to make two meals every time I make a meal, and you
Right.
can. It's good for your family to eat that way, and they can slather it with sour cream or cheese or something if they need to. But just realizing, you don't have to make two meals every time, and figuring out things that
Absolutely.
work, and just keep going with it, and it gets easier as you go.
It does indeed. I think that's a great piece of advice because, it definitely is more difficult when, you have other people in the family that aren't, on plan. So I like that, yeah, you could set that boundary. And again, if they want to go have lunch, have some fast food. Okay, fine, but don't bring it back home. Like this is our safe, clean space, and we're gonna have good foods that support our body. And yeah, I know that's easier said than done at some times, but yeah, why you're doing it, and it makes you feel good. And yeah, so I think that should be reason enough to do what you got to do.
I think
Yeah,
Julia
and like
nailed it.
now, oops, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
Now like I think I started with you guys a little over a year ago, and just now my husband's like, I think I kind of want to start eating healthy too. Sometimes it just takes time for him to see that
Right.
it works and whatever, but
Exactly.
Well, and I think you nailed it too, and I think that this speaks to that. I mean, first of all, men are kind of dumb. I mean, being one, I'm the first one to admit it. I mean, we are the lesser of the two sexes. My team hears it all of the time, and there is a reason that there were only two males on the team until very recently. Now we have three, and the rest is all female on the entire Epic team. Um, that said, I think Julia nailed it when she said when you start feeling better and you really truly like it clicks, you
Right.
don't want to go back. I mean, it's just not worth it. I mean, the whatever it is, fill in the blank that you were eating or the way that you were eating, the way that you're existing, it just wasn't worth it. So
Mhm.
what happens is the main support people, which are typically the husbands, they're watching and they most husbands I think care. I think there's a few select people out there that really don't care one way or another how their wives are doing, but they want the wives to be doing better. And then about a year later, it is about a year later when they're like, you are getting better and you're happier and you're healthier and happy wife, happy life. And you know what? Maybe I want to eat like that. And it's not so bad. We've kind of been doing it together. And finally they do get on board. But it is about at a year. I mean, we notice it all of the time at Epic. It's about a year later that the men are finally on board to a certain extent. And then sometimes even 2 or 3 years where they're finally as committed as the female. And sometimes when they grab a hold of it, they're like, come hell or high water, this is what we're doing. I mean, this is the way. And then it's cool to watch that family, like the health of the entire family really taking off at that
Mhm.
point. It's awesome.
yeah,
Super
that's really
cool.
cool.
I love it. But yeah, I think yeah, like you said, it is really interesting to me how it does take, a little bit, but I know people say, you can lead a horse to water, but, doesn't mean they're going to drink it. But I think, leading by example, yeah, Trey, I just finished mine, so but cheers. I think leading by example is, the best thing you can do in that, scenario. And like you said, he noticed the ways that you were feeling better and you've got more energy, and you're just, yeah, I know you're just a very spunky person. I enjoy, your energy, but I'm sure, yeah, there's been other changes he's noticed, and whichever one it was that inspired him to, try it out for himself. It's, yeah, I'm just glad that he's, he's into it. Now he can learn for himself, what works for his
Hey,
body and what he
I was
likes.
going to say for reverse psychology for our female listeners that are out there, which I know is a large chunk of you guys, the reverse psychology with men is saying, no, I know that this is really hard. I mean, I can do it, but I get it. It's really hard. I understand why you don't want to do it. Because if you tell that to a man, they're like, what do you mean it's hard? I bet I can, I'm serious. Like it's some weird thing where they're like, they got to win
Challenge
that game. Yeah,
accepted.
exactly. I throw down the gauntlet and I accept it.
I need to do that. My husband is so competitive too, so I just need to make it like a competition, and then he'll
Oh,
be
You
the
do
healthy
it, do
guy.
it casually, Julie. I'm telling you, do it casually. Like, I know I get it. It's hard. Yeah, I mean, I can do it, but I mean, I get it. It's super hard. It's not
I
meant for
like,
everybody. You
yeah,
know. And by
that
the way,
is
it's
so
not that
funny.
hard. That's the irony
yeah,
of the whole thing is it's not really that hard. So that way when they start doing it, they're like,
Right.
oh yeah, this is hard. I've got this. I've totally got
yeah.
this down.
Well, and especially for him, I'm making all his meals anyways. He just has to eat them.
All
Right.
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 Oh my goodness. But I love it. And yeah, there's we're all work in progresses. So we're all progressing and we'll
Well,
get
except
there.
me, you
But
perfect. I just want to say that. No, I'm teasing.
yes,
I'm,
my bad. You're the
don't
exception.
don't
You're the
ask Rachel. Don't
exception.
tell
I
Rachel I said
apologize.
that at all, please.
She's gonna hop in here and be like, "What is yours?" No, I'm kidding. I love it, but really, we can kind of, yeah. I don't have a lot more to add here, but I'm again so thankful for Julia. Thank you again for joining
Yeah,
us,
thank
and
you.
really, yeah, there's so many different ways we can again make it easier for ourselves on the week ahead, and I know it looks different for literally everyone, including shopping, planning, prepping, all that. But again, just working on being mindful within that, and again, I know your future self will appreciate it if you can, do a little something to help that future self out. So before we
Absolutely.
cut out here, anybody else have any final words of advice or anything else? Yeah, go ahead,
I want to
Dr. V.
reiterate something Julia said that was said so casually, but was so real. That when a lot of people start eating healthy, they way overbuy food. Because
Oh yeah.
they're like, I need 13 cups of this, every single day, and so and here's two grocery carts full of whatever I'm purchasing. Don't do that. I would, unless you live, 15 hours away from your grocery store, I would recommend at first getting a handle on what it looks like to eat in that rhythm and buy
Right.
smaller quantities, and then go maybe a little bit more often than usual until you get a handle on what that looks like and what you like to eat and what
Right.
how much your family is consuming, because like Julia said, there's nothing worse than jumping in and wanting to be healthy and doing all these great choices. I mean, they are great choices, but then wasting so many dollars going to the compost bin, just because it spoiled, and produce spoils. It's not can't box can wrap package processed, right? I mean, it's real
Mhm.
whole food, and it's not going to last 10 weeks in the fridge.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's great advice. And yeah, and it definitely, you know, I'm not going to say practice makes perfect because I don't think any of us are perfect, but practice, it definitely will get easier the more you practice and the more, like you said, you get into that rhythm and figure out, what are my weekly staples? What do I definitely need to have on hand? And what are some, other things I am inspired to include this week? So, yeah,
Mhm.
would you agree, Julia? Has it, yeah, I feel like it's definitely gotten easier. Do you think you've kind of gotten to that, into a rhythm within kind of the shopping and just that routine?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, it's just second nature now, which is amazing. I never thought I'd get to that
Totally.
place. But like you guys said with Misfits Market, I just started that too. And I feel like that's a whole nother level of ease. I'm like obsessed with it. So
Right.
subscription services and stuff like that could really be helpful too. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's definitely gotten easier and it's awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
Awesome.
thank you for joining us. And Julie, by the way, you look great as always. And it's been so wonderful to get to know you and your family over the last year and see your progress is phenomenal. I don't want to talk about your
So
case, but
proud.
holy cannoli. Talk about a 180. I mean, geez, Louise, you're
Yeah.
doing great. You're doing great.
We're
Well,
so
thank you guys.
proud.
You've changed my life. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so this is one of my favorite things is just, connecting and hearing all of the ways like I know it didn't change overnight. There were, and even when you were, doing good, there's still kind of, tweaks and things that you make, but like you said it's gotten easier and it really just becomes second nature because, you know that you feel good by doing these things and so why would you want to do anything else? I
Absolutely.
love it.
Absolutely. For
Beautiful.
sure.
Awesome. Well, I hope everyone has the most beautiful afternoon. And me and Dr. B will be back here tomorrow at 1 o'clock. We'll be talking about smarter goals,
Smart
not
Urgle.
just smart goals, smarter goals. So, yeah, thanks. And by the way, I'll be posting our little post it note question right after this. But
Cool.
thanks again, Julia. You're
Thanks,
amazing.
Julia.
We
Thanks,
love
Nina.
you.
Bye.
And yes, we'll talk to everyone later.
See you later, guys. Bye bye.
Bye.